Hey everyone, and welcome back to Gen Z Wealth and Wellness. We are so excited to have you back for our second episode.
I know, right?
If you haven't already, be sure to swing by our website, genzwealthandwellness.com. You'll find tons of great resources there. So today, let's dive into something that's been all over TikTok lately. And let's be real, it's probably showed up on your For You page at least once. We are talking about girl math. And you know what? I've definitely had my fair share of girl math moments. Like, remember when those noise-canceling headphones, you know the ones I needed, went on sale? Suddenly it was like they were a steal, even though they were still, well, a big chunk of change.
It's so funny how our brains work like that. What's interesting is that girl math is more than just a funny meme. It actually reflects some real psychological biases we all have when it comes to money. Gen Z is using humor to deal with a financial landscape that can feel really overwhelming.
Totally. And with hashtag FinTalk hitting a crazy 4.7 billion views, it's clear Gen Z is making their mark on how we talk about money online. So, okay, can you break it down for us? What exactly is girl math?
Basically, it's a way to justify spending. It's that logic, like, oh, those shoes the 70% off, so you basically saved money. Or that Mozart ticket was totally worth it if you divide the cost by the number of hours you'll be entertained. You know? It's all about making those purchases feel less painful, even if your bank account might tell a different story.
Okay, so it's like a little mental loophole. Like, I know I probably shouldn't buy that extra large iced latte every day. But if you think about it, it's basically just $1 per sip, and you can't really put a price on happiness.
Exactly. That's a classic example of mental accounting. It's one of the biases that fuels girl math. We tend to put money into separate mental categories, so spending from the fun money jar feels way less guilty than dipping into the rent money jar. But realistically, it's all coming from the same place.
So true. And honestly, $1 a sip can add up pretty quickly. Okay, so mental accounting, got it. What other sneaky brain tricks are we falling for?
Well, there's the sunk cost fallacy. Like, let's say you buy a non-refundable plane ticket for a trip, but then your plans change and now you don't really want to go. The sunk cost fallacy is what makes you feel like you have to go because you've already spent the money, even if it means spending even more money on a trip you won't enjoy.
Oh, I've totally been there. It's that feeling of like, well, I've already spent the money, so I might as well just go. Even if deep down I'd rather be doing something else.
Exactly. And then there's loss aversion. We as humans hate losing something way more than we like gaining something of the same value. This is why all those limited time offers work so well on us. We feel like we're losing out if we don't jump on that deal right away.
Ugh, that explains my online shopping habits. I always end up panic buying things when I see those countdown timers. It's like, I'm actually losing money if I don't buy it right now.
And that's exactly the feeling they're trying to create. Retailers know how to play on our natural biases.
They're sneaky. Like they're in our heads figuring out how to make us spend. Okay, let's talk about anchoring. What's that one all about?
Anchoring happens when we get fixated on the first piece of information we see, even if it's not the best or most accurate information. So, for example, you see a sweater marked down from $100 to $50, and you immediately think, that's a great deal, even if you could find a similar sweater at another store for only $40. It's that initial $100 price that's anchoring your sense of value.
Ah, so it's all about framing. That $50 might seem amazing compared to the original price. But when you look at the bigger picture, it might not be the best deal after all.
Exactly. And then finally, we have the found money effect. It's that rush you get when some extra cash comes your way, like a tax refund or a bonus. Suddenly, it feels like you can splurge because it's not part of your usual budget.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well. It's like free money, let's go shopping. But then you realize later that found money was actually yours all along. You just hadn't factored it in.
Right. It's easy to fall into that trap. We're way less careful with money that feels like a bonus, even if it's technically part of our overall finances. So girl math can be a fun way to cope with financial stress. But if we rely on it too much, it can lead to overspending and even debt.
It's a slippery slope. Okay, so we've got the inside scoop on girl math, and all those sneaky psychological biases that come with it. But it's not the only trend blowing up on TikTok. Let's switch gears and talk about another one that's all about finding a better work-life balance, the lazy girl job trend.
Absolutely. It's like a direct response to the burnout that a lot of millennials experienced, with the whole hustle culture thing. Gen Z is looking for something different.
For sure. So what exactly makes a job a lazy girl job? Tell me everything.
Okay, so it's not really about being lazy in the traditional sense. It's more about finding a job that's low stress, with, predictable hours so that you have time for a life outside of work. Think like a standard 9 to 5, decent pay, maybe some cool perks, but without all that pressure, like constant deadlines or the feeling that you have to always be on.
So it's about setting boundaries and taking care of your mental health, which totally makes sense, especially with how much we hear about burnout these days. But isn't there a downside to just aiming for the easiest jobs? Like, what about growing your career and all that?
That's a really good point. The word lazy can be a little misleading. It's not about settling or giving up on your ambitions. It's more about finding a sustainable pace and finding a role that lets you thrive, both professionally and personally.
Okay, so it's not about being lazy. It's about being strategic. Working smarter, not harder. I like that. All right, let's move on to another trend that's been making the rounds. Cash stuffing. This one feels kind of old school, right?
Yeah, it's like your grandma's envelope system got a Gen Z glow up. The basic idea is you take cash and you put it into different envelopes. Each envelope is labeled for a specific spending category, like groceries or entertainment or bills. When you need to spend money, you physically take it out of the envelope.
So it's like a super visual way to track your spending. No more wondering where all your money went, because you can literally see it disappearing from those envelopes.
Exactly. That's a big part of why it appeals to Gen Z. In a digital world, it's easy to lose track of your spending. It all just becomes numbers on a screen. Cash stuffing brings back that tangible aspect. Budgeting becomes real and concrete.
I could see how that would be helpful. But isn't it kind of risky to carry around a bunch of cash? What if you lose an envelope? That would be so stressful.
Those are valid concerns. Cash stuffing isn't for everyone. It can be a little inconvenient, and security is definitely something to think about. But the main point, the idea of setting spending limits and actually sticking to them, that's super valuable no matter what method you use.
It's not really about the physical cash. It's about being intentional and mindful about where your money is going.
Exactly. And there are ways to do cash stuffing in a digital way. For those of us who don't want to carry around wads of cash, a lot of banking apps now have features like digital envelopes or sub-accounts. You can split up your money for different categories and track your spending right there in the app.
Ooh, that's really cool. So you get the visual organization of cash stuffing, but without the risk of losing an envelope full of cash. I like it.
There are also budgeting rebs that connect to your bank accounts. They automatically categorize your transactions. That way you can see where your money is going.
Technology to the rescue. Speaking of being open about our finances, let's talk about another trend that's all about communication. Loud budgeting. This one feels a little loud, so how does this work?
Loud budgeting is all about being upfront about your financial limits, especially when you're hanging out with friends. It's about pushing back against the pressure to overspend, like trying to keep up with everyone else.
So instead of feeling awkward and making up excuses when your friends want to try that new expensive restaurant, you just say, hey, that's not in my budget right now, but I'm down for something else.
Exactly. It's about setting boundaries and normalizing the fact that we all have limits. And honestly, it can be super freeing, especially for Gen Z. You guys are constantly bombarded with messages telling you to treat yourself or to live your best life, which can end up meaning spending a ton of money.
Right. FOMO is real. It's tough to say no when everyone else is out there spending money. So loud budgeting is kind of like saying, hey, I have financial goals and I'm sticking to them, even if that means saying no sometimes.
Exactly. And it's not just about saying no. It's also about being open about what your financial priorities are. Like if you're saving up for a house, tell your friends about it. They might be more understanding about why you can't go on that weekend trip or buy that expensive concert ticket.
That's a great point. Sharing your goals can be really motivating. And having that open communication can create a support system where everyone's kind of holding each other accountable. But isn't there a risk of oversharing? Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, it's all about balance. You can be open and honest about your goals and boundaries without sharing every detail. Like you don't have to tell everyone your exact salary or show them your bank statements. It's more about just letting people know what's important to you and showing that you're making choices about how you spend your money.
Right. It's about being intentional with your spending. And that just seems to be something that our generation is really focusing on. Okay, let's move on to the last trend on our list. Lucky girl syndrome. This one feels a bit different. It's about manifesting financial success through positive thinking. So is it all about just like wishing really, really hard for money to appear?
It's not magic, but there is something to be said for the power of positive thinking. When you truly believe in yourself and your ability to reach your financial goals, you're more likely to make good decisions and actually take those steps you need to take.
So it's not about just sitting back and wishing for wealth. It's about channeling those good vibes into motivation and creating a mindset that attracts success.
Exactly. It's about picturing your goals, using affirmations to build your confidence, and believing that you can create that financial abundance you want. And this is a bit, but it's not about ignoring reality.
Right, we can't just expect to win the lottery without buying a ticket. We still have to put in the work.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Manifestation sets the intention, but it's action that brings it to life. It's about creating a plan, setting clear goals, and taking consistent steps to reach them. And it's about believing in yourself the whole way through.
I love that it's like that saying, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. You have to be ready to grab those opportunities when they show up, and sometimes you even have to create your own opportunities.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot between optimism of action. And even if you're not totally on board with the whole manifestation thing, just having a positive outlook and believing in yourself can make the journey a lot more fun.
Totally. I am all about that positive energy. So we've talked about all these different viral trends, but what's the bigger picture? What can these TikToks tell us about how Gen Z thinks about money?
It's really interesting to see how Gen Z is changing the way we approach money. You guys are using humor and community to deal with financial stress, turning to things like memes and jokes and social media to share your experiences and find support.
It's like we're creating this open conversation about money that's relatable and so much less intimidating than those old school financial lectures.
Exactly. And there's this real pushback against the idea that you have to work yourself to the bone. Gen Z is all about finding that balance between enjoying life and building financial security. It's like you're rewriting the rules and creating your own path.
It's like saying, hey, we know money's important, but it's not everything. We want to enjoy our life, take care of our mental health, and find fulfillment in our careers and outside of them. And let's be real, we're facing a very different financial reality than the generations before us. Student loans inflation, a crazy housing market. It's a lot to deal with.
Absolutely. These trends are coming out of a really specific context. It's a generation that's growing up during a time of so much uncertainty, both financially and socially. So it makes sense that you're finding new ways to cope and connect with each other.
It's like we're all in this together, figuring things out as we go. And TikTok has become this unexpected place to find financial advice, get support, and let's be honest, find some entertainment too.
It's making these conversations about money more accessible and way less taboo, but it's important to be careful about who you're getting advice from.
Right. Not all financial influencers are created equal. So how do we navigate this world of TikTok finance and make sure we're getting good advice?
It all comes down to critical thinking. Don't believe everything you see. Take a moment to consider the source. Are they a real expert or just someone with a lot of followers? Do they actually have any real-world experience or qualification? Though, and watch out for sponsored content. If someone's always promoting a specific product or service, there's a good chance they're getting paid to do it.
So do your research just like you would with any other information. Check their credentials, see if there are any independent reviews, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And remember, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly. Building wealth takes time, effort, and smart decisions. There's no such thing as a get-rich-quick scheme.
And learning about money shouldn't feel like a chore. It can be fun and even empowering. It's about finding what works for you, building good habits, and hey, maybe even having some laughs along the way.
It's about finding that balance that fits your own values and goals.
Well said. We've covered so much today, but I think the main takeaway is that Gen Z is changing the way we talk about money. We're finding new ways to learn, connect, and make those financial goals a reality.
And we're doing it our own way with humor, creativity, and a healthy amount of skepticism.
Exactly. So to all you amazing Gen Zers out there, keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep sharing your experiences. We're all in this together. And don't forget, you can find even more tips and resources on our website, genzwealthandwellness.com.
And be sure to share your own money-saving tips and wins on social media. We love to hear from you.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, stay savvy.